This video is a general guide to the interface used in Vectric software programs. We're going to show you how to navigate your way around the program to get you started. There are differences between the different products depending on what features are available, but the interface itself is pretty consistent throughout. For demonstration purposes, we're going to use a single version of one of the products here to show you around the user interface. When you open the program, you're presented with the panel that you can see here on the left-hand side. So the first set of options we have here is our startup tasks. If I click on this option here, this will enable me to create a brand new file. If I wanted to open a file I've previously worked on and saved out, I could open an existing file and search through my computer to access the file that I saved previously. Then we have the option to view our recently opened files, so you can see the last 4 files that I've had open in the software displayed here, and I can click on any one of these and it will open up that file. Then we have access to the video tutorial browser, and that will just link me up to the tutorial browser where I could go ahead and watch various tutorials, search for them, or download project files. Then we have various online resources, the Vectric website, the support site, and the Vectric forum. Then we have links to Vectric Facebook and Vectric's Twitter page. And then finally at the bottom we have a link to the Vectric's Design and Make website where we could purchase individual clip art or project-based clip art. So if I wanted to create a brand new file, I'd use this option here to create a new file. And this will automatically open up a job setup form where I can specify various options to control the job that we're going to create. For example, the first thing we need to do is specify our job type, whether we're working in a single-sided job or a double-sided job. Then we have various options to alter the sizes, so the width, height and thickness. We can change the units that we're working with. And then we can set where we want to set up the part in relation to the Z0 position or the XY datum position on the machine. Now, for those that are using 3D programs, you also have the extra option to choose a modeling resolution. And then once you've got everything set up here, you'd simply go ahead and press OK to start your session. Now in this case, we're just going to cancel this and I'm going to look at opening an existing file. So I'd use the Open an Existing File option, and here I'm able to search through my PC to locate the file that I'd like to open. In this case, this is the file I want to open, so I'd select it and then go ahead and press Open. Now when you start a new job or open an existing job, by default you will see what you can see on screen here. So you'll see the Design tab on the left hand side and you'll see the 2D view visible in the main window here. We have drop down menus at the top here that we always have access to, and I can click on one and you'll get a menu that cascades down from the top from the word that's been clicked here. Sometimes you'll see an arrow and that will present us with a sub-menu which gives us more choices, and all of these are fairly self-explanatory and you'll see these menus being used from time to time in the video tutorials. Now the majority of the time we access functions of the software using what we call tabs and icons that appear on them. So over on the left hand side here, we're currently looking at the Design tabs, and they run from the top to the bottom, and at the bottom here highlighted in orange is the currently selected tab. So at the moment we're currently looking at all of the icons that relate to the Drawing tab. We can switch between each tab by clicking on it to access the information or the functions that it contains. Now in all Vectric programs you will have at least 2 tabs. You'll have the Drawing tab and the Layers tab for working with 2D data. Programs that support 3D models also have a Modeling tab and a Clip Art tab. In addition, all of the programs have a Toolpaths tab. So over on the right hand side of the screen, you'll see there that we have the Toolpaths tab on the right hand side, and we'll come back to that later on. Now the functions in the software can be accessed by icons, and so these are the little pictures that you can see in the tab. If we hover over any one of these icons, you'll see that it's highlighted and we're displayed with some text which we refer to as a tooltip, which tells me the name of the function, which is useful when we're first learning the software. I can click on any one of these and that will open up the function. So let's just close that down. The job dimensions are shown at the bottom of the drawing tab if you have a large enough monitor for the interface to display this information. As I said, the tabs on the left hand side are used for the design process, whereby the drawing tab houses all of the 2D applications. We have the layers tab that enables us to organise 2D data. We have the modelling tab that allows us to create and manipulate 3D entities. We have the clip art tab that enables us to view clip art from our library of 3D models. And once we're finished with the design, what we tend to do is move over to the Toolpaths tab. Now there's a few ways for us to do this. One way is I could come over and just hover over the tab and that will open it out, in which case I can then just pin this in place so it's permanently held in place on the right hand side, and then I could unpin that by just clicking on that pin, and you'll see that my Toolpaths tab has now hidden over to the right hand side so you can maximize the view that we've got here. Now if I wanted the Toolpaths tab open but I didn't want the design tabs open on the left hand side, I could simply come over and use this icon here to switch to the Toolpaths tab. You'll see that I have access to this on any one of the tabs that I've got selected, and when I click on that, that will just temporarily hide the design tabs and it will pin out the Toolpaths tab on the right hand side. And you'll notice that I have this icon on the Toolpaths tab also, which will enable me to switch back over to the Design tab, and it will close the Toolpaths tab. So let's just do that. So click on that, hides the Toolpaths tab, opens up the Design tabs on the left hand side. Okay, I can also use keyboard shortcuts to switch between the Drawing tab and the Toolpaths tab. So F12 enables me to switch to the Toolpaths, F11 switches to the Design tabs. So let's just go back to F12 to open up that Toolpaths tab. And now that that's pinned in place and the Design tab has hidden away, you'll see that when I hover over my mouse onto the Drawing tab, it's going to pull that out along with the Modelling tab, the Layers tab and the Clip Art tab. And if I wanted to pin this open also, I could just simply use the pin option. That way I now have my Design tab and my Toolpaths tab open at the same time. Now the middle part of our interface is where we create and edit the design, and it's split between the 2D view and the 3D view. Now the 2D view is what's currently displayed here, so we can see any vectors that we currently have in our job. And if we click over to the 3D view, we then go into a 3D environment. And this rectangle here represents the material. Now we have no 3D entities here. Now in all of the programs, this is where we can also view our toolpaths. So we could switch our toolpaths on and we're displayed them here in the 3D view. We can take a look at what the part will look like if we went and previewed those toolpaths. So let's just go over to the preview toolpath. We're just going to preview all sides here, and you'll see here that the software is able to simulate how our toolpaths are going to look when we actually cut that out on our CNC machine. If I wanted to, I could just undraw that tool so it doesn't display that tool information, and we're just left with what would be left over if we cut that out on the CNC. And so you'll see here we're getting this simulation of how the part would look in the 3D view. Now, if you're working with one of the programs that supports the ability to use 3D components, this is where you'd see those shapes here. So not only can we switch between the 2D view and the 3D view by selecting the actual tabs at the top here, but we could also use shortcut keys. So F2 enables us to look at the 2D view, F3 solely looks at the 3D view. Now if you wanted to view both the 2D and the 3D view at the same time, we could come over to the top area here and you'll see we've got two icons, and these icons enable us to tile our windows. Sometimes it's beneficial to see both the 2D and the 3D view. So here I could use this option and that will tile my windows horizontally, so the 2D view is at the top, 3D view is at the bottom. I could use this icon here to tile my windows vertically, so the 2D view is on the left and the 3D view is on the right. If I press page down, that will tile my windows horizontally, and page up does that vertically. So there's lots of shortcut keys to switch between different views or different tabs here. Now you'll notice that we have various icons on the top of our job, and we refer to this area as the view toolbar. So here is where I'm able to alter how we view our job, along with having permanent access to some essential tools. So let's take a look at these. So starting from the left, I'm just going to look at this area here. Now if I'm working in a two-sided environment like we are here, you'll see displayed information relative to your two-sided setup that you set up in the job setup form. So here we're displayed with which way we chose to flip our material, and then here we have a toggle bar that allows us to view the top or the bottom side. Now if you was working in a single-sided environment, you would not see these icons displayed here. So here I can see the top side at the moment, and if I click on that, we're then displayed with the bottom side. In the 2D view you'll also notice that the ruler colour has changed, and this is just indicating to you that we are now currently looking at the bottom side of our part. Not only that, the arrow here in the icon displays that also. We can switch back over to the top side by clicking there, and in both the 2D and the 3D view we're now looking at the part from the top side. And I can also use the shortcut keys 1 and 2 to switch between top and bottom. So 1 takes me back to the top, 2 goes to the bottom. So I'll just bring that back to the top by pressing 1 there. Then over to the right we have access to our layer manager, and so this is always accessible at the top here, which makes it easier for me to manage my layers without having to switch tabs in our design area on the left here. Then over to the right we have easy access to our snap options when drawing in the software, where we can toggle on and off various settings according to what it is that we're creating. Then we have the 2D view controls. So we're just going to maximize the 2D view here. And so we have lots of ways to view how I see the data here. Now you'll see that we've gone off center because we originally had our windows tiled. So what I could do is I could use the scroll bars here to manipulate my view. I can move that up or down, and I've got one over here, I can move that left to right also. Okay, I also have access to the 2D view controls up the top here. And so what I could do is I could just look at panning my view using this icon with the 4 arrows, and if I click on that, you'll see my cursor's now changed, and when I click I can just drag or pan my view wherever I want to in the 2D view here. Next icon on the right we have the option to zoom 2D view to mouse drawn box. So if I click on that, you'll see my cursor's now changed to a magnifier, and I could draw a box just by dragging, and then when I let go it will zoom in on the box that I'd originally dragged out. The next icon is the option to zoom active view to draw in limits, or what we sometimes refer to as zoom to fit, and when I click on that it will just simply fit my job within my 2D view. And then we have the option here to zoom selected objects, so I could select a vector here, use that option, and it will zoom in on the vector I originally had selected. Okay, so we could use the option here to zoom to fit, or I could use the shortcut key, which is F on the keyboard, and that will do exactly the same. It will fit my 2D area within the actual full 2D view. Not only can I use the 2D view icons to control what we see, I could also use the scroller of my mouse where I could move that away from me and that will zoom in, and I could pull the scroller towards me and that will zoom out. So let's press F on the keyboard to zoom to fit. So moving along, so you've got the two icons here, and these are toolpath drawing options relating to how we see the toolpath in the 2D view. Then we have the option to toggle between a single or a double-sided view. Again, this is only accessible if you're working in a two-sided environment. And then we have the toggling of the tiling of the windows, which we showed you earlier. A way to access certain functions in the software is through context-sensitive menus, accessed through the right mouse key. And this varies depending on the state of the part and what you have selected at a particular time. Now, if we just right-click in the white space, you'll see I'm presented with a variety of choices. Now, context-sensitive means that we get a menu appropriate to a particular part we may have clicked. For example, if I select a vector and just go into node edit mode, and then if I right click over this vector here, you'll see that I'm now presented with a completely different menu that's particular to this object that we're hovering over and the state I'm in, which is in node edit mode. Now you'll see here that we have various options in here, and next to the various options we have these shortcuts as listed here. So we've got these letters that act as shortcut keys. For example, we could delete the span by clicking on that, or I could come out of the part, reselect that vector, and then just hover over this area here and press D on the keyboard, and that's going to delete that. Okay, so we could undo that by coming over and using the undo option, or we could press Ctrl Z on the keyboard to create that undo. So let's just go back into normal selection mode by clicking on this arrow here, or I could press Escape to access the standard selection mode. So now let's just switch over to the 3D view, and you can see the preview of the conrod that we've got there in the 3D view. And we're going to look at various things that we can do to navigate around the view like we did with the 2D view. And so to rotate the part around, we simply press the left mouse key and then I move the mouse, and you'll see that I'm able to view this conrod in various different angles like so. To zoom in on the part, I simply hold the right mouse key down and I move my mouse away from me, and that will enable us to zoom in to the centre of our job. To zoom out, I simply do the opposite, so I have my right mouse key held down, but I move the mouse towards me this time, like so. Now, if you had a mouse that had a scroll wheel, you could use a scroll wheel where you'd scroll that away from you to zoom in, and then you scroll that towards you to zoom out there. Okay, then we could press F on the keyboard, and that will just zoom to fit the 3D view there. At the top right of our 3D view, we have these icons here. So this icon allows us to zoom to fit, the same as what the F key does on the keyboard. This icon allows us to look at it in the ISO view, so we're getting a nice angled view there. The Z icon means that we're looking at that down the Z axis. X enables us to look at this up the X axis, and Y enables us to look at the part up the Y axis. So let's just put that back into the ISO or the angled view there. So to pan my view, I can simply hold the left and the right mouse key down, move my mouse, and you'll see there that I'm able to pan that around. Now this is particularly useful if I'm wanting to zoom in on a particular area of my design. Now when we zoom in on an object in the 3D view, the software will just zoom in to the center of the screen. So for example, if I'm wanting to look at the left hand side of this conrod, I can simply pan that over to the right so that that hole is roughly in the center of our job, in which case I can now use the scroller of my mouse to zoom in on that particular area. So let's just put that in the isometric view. So far we've had a good look at the standard interface, looking at the different tabs, the icons, and how we can view the 2D and the 3D view. And it is possible to add some customization to the interface, and we only really recommend doing this after you've become quite comfortable with the standard layout. For example, we could tear out the tabs and position them anywhere we like around our monitor. To do that, I could click on the drawing tab, just drag that over, and you'll see that that has moved that over, and I can size this if I wanted to, and you'll see that now I've changed the size. We're now presented with a scroll bar so we can access all of the different tools. If I wanted to, I could take a tab out of the design tab, so I could take this modeling tab and I could just move that over. You'll see it's now a separate area on its own, and again I can move this wherever I like. I could do the same for the Toolbars tab also. I'm going to take that modeling tab and we're just going to bring that back over into the design tab. I'm going to take that modeling tab and I'm just going to move it over 2 places so that that's in the correct order. To put this back over to the left hand side, I could simply double click there and you'll see that now has been pinned back into its original place. And as I said, we only really recommend doing this once you're comfortable with the software, as this may make it a little bit difficult to follow along to the video tutorials. Now if you have configured your tabs to positions that you want and you can work with, it's possible to actually save that layout. So that really completes this brief overview of the interface. Now we haven't gone into detail on the specifics of the icons and how the features work, as that's covered in many of the tutorials that we have available. And this tutorial is intended as a quick guide to getting around the software.